Hi there, Laura here from Get Organized HQ, and I have something we really need to talk about. I really need to get this off my chest, and I also think this could help some of you who might have had some of the same struggles that I have. So about a year ago, I posted a video with a health update about how I'd had emergency surgery. I had had years of pretty bad chronic illness, and the surgery really helped things. So I wanted to update you all on that and explain how that relates. So I have actually continued. We're over a year out, I've continued to do relatively well. I still have IBS, but not IBS complicated by an incarcerated hernia. And it is way more manageable. So I'm very grateful for that. Like, so grateful. Like I talked about in that video, I'm just so grateful how everything worked out. That was, probably 80% of the problem. So I've really enjoyed just being able to go about life and not have like debilitating, pain kind of taking over more and more. That has been wonderful. However, that doesn't mean that life is perfect. I'm grateful to have had that, but there are also other struggles in life. And that's what I want to talk about. Sometimes, I make these videos and honestly, I feel like a fraud. And the reason is, like, I'll come on and I'll make a video, 12 things you probably forgot to clean. And everything in that video is true, is what I mean. Like, there is no acting. There is no, that is 100% real and true. That is me. However, it's not the whole story. And sometimes, whether it is because, just things are going on in the world that are far more important than dusting your ceiling fan, for example, whether things are going on in the world at large, or things are going on in my own personal life that are very important, a very big deal, and a big struggle, it starts to seem silly to talk about more trivial matters. And sometimes that feels a little off for me, because I don't want people to think that because, you see me when I make the videos, and like I said in my last video, that is, 2 or 3 hours of my week that you're seeing when I'm on video. And those are my most, put together hours. Like, I am not filming the video in the midst of chaos. Everything's calm and peaceful in the home when I'm filming the video. And I've tried to bring my A game, put on the makeup, put on nice clothes, and bringing my highest energy to it. And so that's not a true representation of how every minute of my week or my life is. And I don't want anyone to ever think that. While it's 100% true, it is not the entirety of what life is. And I think sometimes, for me, when I watch people online, whether I'm watching them on Instagram or YouTube videos, I start to wonder what's wrong with me. Like, wow, they have got it all together. Like, how is it that they have, a nice family and sweet children, and they go on lovely vacations, and, nothing's going wrong and all this. So we build these things up in our head to imagine that what we see in some of the snippets are the whole story. And it never is. It never is. And so I just want to be really clear that just because I show up and say encouraging and positive things doesn't mean that everything is going fantastically, and, that I wasn't crying in the corner of the closet an hour before I started, or that I didn't, I remember one morning of filming, things were particularly stressful. And I remember stopping by Target. I don't know if it was to get something for filming. And I literally had to wait to go in Target because I couldn't stop crying. Like, I'm going through Target, tears going down my face. I'm getting ready. I had to delay by 30 minutes because I had to stop crying so I could get my makeup on. So this is actually the truth of what is happening, but I'm not turning on the camera in those moments. So, now I did compose myself, which I would have done whether I was filming or not. I moved on, which I think, if you have struggles and problems, I don't think it's helpful to just sit there all day and do nothing but dwell on them. Yeah, cry when you need to, absolutely. Then move on. I needed to be productive as a way to cope with life, and just because you need to, I think content creation online is a bit of a strange job because, if you had a traditional job that wasn't out in front of people, even when things and crises were happening in your life, you would need to go to work. Like, you wouldn't just not go to work because you had a really rough morning or because, there were a lot of heavy things weighing on your heart. And the same is true if your job is content creation. You need to show up no matter what, but it can feel weird because people are only seeing just such a small snippet. And I just don't want anyone to think that that is the whole story. And beyond that, I think I said this in the last video about why I didn't talk about my health struggles a lot online, even though I was creating content in the midst of all of them, is that, and I think this is probably why a lot of people going through things don't necessarily talk about it publicly online. And there's a few reasons. Number one, I just don't think it would be that helpful. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess I could, but when I had the health problems, I guess I could have made a bunch of videos or talked in every video about how I was feeling or something, but I just don't know what great help that would have been. Like, so I wanted to focus on the things that I can actually help with, like the things that I actually do well and the things that I know I can help with, even if those things seem small. And here's the other thing that I've thought about a lot. Sometimes, especially when you just think about the magnitude of the world and everything going on, you can start to think that what you do doesn't make that much of a difference, or that it's all so trivial. That is what I have felt a lot during the midst of some crises, is it just feels trivial. Like, we got this big problem, and a lot of problems in life you don't know how to solve. I mean, with pretty much any problem I've ever had, if I'd known how to solve it, I would have just done that and we would have moved on. But many things are far more complex than that, and there's not one simple solution. And so, we do have to continue with life, and all the better to find joy and to do those things well, even when they're trivial. And creating a home that is as peaceful as you can make it through it being organized, through it being tidy, through not being overwhelmed with your stuff, and, things being relatively tidy, that is important. And I want us all to realize that those things, while they may not be as monumental, they are important, and they are important to you and the people in your household. And those are the people that you can have the most impact on. And I've thought about that a lot. I'm able to have that impact on the people in my household, and I'm able to share that with you so you can make a difference to the people closest to you, including yourself. So while it may seem trivial, it really is important. The things that we talk about, from decluttering to organizing and time management, they are important. And it does make a difference. And, you do have to keep going, even when times are tough. So the first reason why I just think people in general maybe don't share everything is it's just not helpful to anyone. The second reason is that for many, many things that people go through, it isn't their short story to share. And with my health situation, that was actually my story to share, and I did share it in plenty of detail. You can go watch that. I'm very open to share, what's going on. I feel that could help somebody else in the same situation. Whether you're in the same, you have the same health problem and it helps you identify and fix it, fantastic. Or maybe you're just going through chronic struggles and you don't have answers, and it's helpful to hear from someone who was there and how they coped. So I'm happy to share all that. But there is a lot of things that happen in life that are just not, there's a lot of things going on in my life that are not mine to share. So I'm not able to talk about those online, even if I wanted to. And so that's another reason why a lot of people just don't open up and talk about all the problems. And you know what? The other thing about this is that this is true not just online, in a public, something you're going to publish on YouTube, but it's also true even with people in real life. When I run into someone in the store, I don't stop them and say, oh, hey, let me tell you about all my problems. Now, that is not to say that I'm not open or I don't think that we should share. I think we should. I think having, supportive family and friends is super helpful and something that we should do. And I don't think that we should try to act like everything is wonderful if it's not. But at the same time, we don't go around necessarily talking about everything that's wrong. And especially, again, in those cases where it's not totally our story to share. So we have to, make sure we're taking that into consideration. So so even then, it's not like everybody is aware of all the things that are going on. So I just want to acknowledge that, I've had a lot of hard things going on. It has been a rough year. And just because you see the polished version Doesn't mean there's not a lot more going on behind the scenes. That's just hard, and I think a lot of you can relate. A lot of you have been through a lot of things, so don't imagine those people that you see that everything's perfect for them. And I know, like, an example of this is when I see people traveling with their kids. I think I get very like, well, how are you traveling with your kids? And I try to travel with my kids, and it is not going so smoothly, you know? And I think in my mind, I think a few things. First of all, they showed the happy photo of them, you know, smiling in a good moment, but that doesn't mean they didn't have a stressful moment. That doesn't mean that someone didn't get car sick, or that someone didn't have a panicky meltdown, or that, you know, it doesn't mean that. Like, we only saw a snapshot. And the second thing is, for some of them, maybe they actually travel really well. Like, for whatever reason, nobody gets car sick. I get car sick, that's why I keep mentioning that. And I have a kid who gets car sick, motion sick. You know, and maybe for whatever reason, it does go really smoothly. Well, that's fantastic. It doesn't mean that everything in their life is perfect, or that that is what we're necessarily striving for. So, and I wanted to say, you know, if you are going through tough times, know that you're not alone. You're not alone. And there's a lot of other people going through tough things. So I just want you to know that. I want to encourage you to reach out for help. I mean, if I've had one regret, I would say in life and in the problems I'm facing right now, it's that I should have asked for help sooner. I should have just been much more willing to admit that I needed help. And so don't wait. Like, get help from wherever you need it. Talk to family, talk to friends, find a counselor if that's what you need. Like, try to get help. There's nothing wrong. Nobody is perfect. We all have problems, and take advantage of whatever help is available to you. The third thing I would say, as far as coping, especially with problems that you can't exactly just solve, you know, something like my chronic illness, is that there's a time and a place to dwell on it, but don't get stuck there. The most helpful thing that I have done throughout my challenges is just to focus on something else. So, you know, the days that I was bedridden, if I could, I would work on my laptop and I would get involved and feel that productive. And now that I am more, have more energy and am able to do things more physically, when I'm feeling stressed, I have a video about mental health cleaning that I'll link to, where I literally call it mental health cleaning. And I can't even tell you how much that helps. It helps in so many ways. First of all, to have like my space tidy just makes me feel better, and it's one small thing that I can control. But another thing is the process of doing it is it just makes me go from feeling discouraged to feeling more empowered and actually distracting myself by doing something productive. Another thing that I think is really helpful for anything is walk, move. Don't just sit, move. I cannot tell you how much I have worked out by just walking. I'll walk up and down our very long driveway. I have a treadmill that I can walk on. I will pace the upper level of our driveway if it's like dark and there's no low light, so I don't want to walk down it. There's parks nearby that I'll go and just walk. And just that movement really can be helpful. So that's just some practical advice I have if you're going through hard times. And I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone. And I wouldn't ever want somebody to think that just because I don't talk about problems, you know, in my YouTube videos, like the biggest, you know, problems in my life, it doesn't mean that they're not there. And it doesn't mean that, and also it doesn't mean that having an organized and tidy house solves all your problems. It doesn't. I mean, it's great. Yes, do it. I highly recommend it. It's important, but it doesn't solve everything. And, you know, it never will. And so I don't want anyone to feel like they're doing something wrong because you've been working really hard and it doesn't feel magical. Now, there's going to be times where we work really hard and it feels amazing and it goes as planned, and there's going to be times when it doesn't. And sometimes, you know, it's because something big is going wrong, and sometimes it's just because something's just a little off. We're not feeling it, and that's okay. I wouldn't want anyone to think that. So I hope this is not meant to, like, I hope this encourages you and makes you feel less alone and helps you look at social media through a more accurate lens. And thank you all for being there. And I'll I'll continue to produce lots of organized and decluttering content, and maybe share kind of an update, like a heart-to-heart like this once a year or so, like I have been. But I hope you all are doing well. And if you do need help, I hope you get the help that you need.